Hey everyone, it's Nathas, and today I'm going to be doing a special stream with Worlds coming up in a couple weeks. I wanted to open a full case of SolForge Fusion Kickstarter boosters on stream tonight. So I'm not going to go super in depth with a lot of the decks. I'm probably just going to open them, kind of flip through them quickly, and then kind of go to the next one. So I'm not going to take a lot of time. If anyone views this and wants to kind of ask me questions about any of the decks later, please feel free to reach out. But I'm just going to get started because this is probably going to take a little bit of time. So it's a sealed case. So this is kind of what they come in. It's just like a cardboard box. And then when we get that open, which I'll do right now. So unlike alpha boosters, which you'll see in a second, the Kickstarter booster kits or booster cases actually just come as loose boosters in a box. So basically, you cut it open, and then you have 24 individually wrapped boosters from Kickstarter. So something that's interesting before I get into the opening is that each booster is actually individually shrink wrapped, which is not like it is done in Alpha. So Alpha, the booster display is shrink wrapped completely, which I actually have one right here. So let me just pull that out. So you'll have a booster display that's shrink wrapped, but each individual box inside just has a piece of tape over the top to make sure it stays closed. So Kickstarter, they did not have these individual booster displays, so they took every individual booster kit and sealed them themselves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open all 24 of these. Let me just get this off of my desk so it'll be a little bit easier to see, and then we'll kind of just go from there. So anybody who's watching, please feel free, ask me any sort of questions in the chat, anything you care about from the decks you see, anything just related to SolForge. I'm happy just to kind of talk and have some fun while we open some stuff. So let me just kind of get some stuff ready, then we should be good to go. All right, so here is the first booster kit. So Kickstarter booster kits are very similar to Alpha. You have one deck from each faction, but you have the opportunity to potentially get a Kickstarter minion into your half decks. Also, something I've noticed is that in the Kickstarter decks, you do actually get the minion of whatever faction that you're opening with that deck. So, for example, here are 4 minions. None of them are Kickstarter in this booster kit. But if you see, the Tempest deck, the Necron deck, the Aloyan deck, and the Lutera deck all have the minion that they are actually buying, or that they're actually the decks for on here. So I know in Alpha, a lot of them were kind of mixed up. So that's something that's nice and interesting. And then the card quality is really the other major difference when you open Kickstarter. So each of the decks, and we have one of each faction. I'm just going to start with the Tempest. We'll get it open. All right, so we've got an arrogant. I'm gaming with they got the camera ready to save some QR codes. I'm probably not going to show that side of the Forgeborn, just to kind of keep it where it's nice and quick. We got an arrogant mystic, a chant of Umbruk, a hibernating worm, a lightning spark, a piercing stone fist, a rhymehorn charger, a steadfast ice crusher, a stout caller, a thunder stomper, a windspark elemental, and the Forgeborn here. Obviously, there's the minion. Our Forgeborn here is a Korok with Whirlwind, Demolish, and Flame Strike. All right, next we'll get into our first Necron deck. So that first Tempest deck, there was nothing super crazy about it, but it's definitely an interesting deck for sure. Nothing that I'm like, really the goal here is to see if we can find anything that's like super optimized for Worlds or any other major events. So we got a Bone Scythe Reaver, a Darkheart Sorcerer, a Grave Pack. This is already feeling like a Rumble Spark deck. A Grimgrant Predator, an Infernal Ritual. Ooh, and a Betrayer Leyline Vermin. A Spite Hydra, a Steadfast Summoner, a Varnus Pact, a Venerable Spectre, and we've got a Nyx, unfortunately, as our Forgeborn with Army of the Damned, Soul Rip, and Dark Summoning. So this is a deck that's actually, just with the fact that it's got the Dark Heart, it's got the Leyline Vermin, it's got a bunch of the things that destroy themselves when you play them. There's not like a ton of just straight removal, but it's something that I consider doing with a Dark Heart style deck. And yeah, I agree. Kickstarter decks are a lot easier to open. So there's actually, if I could get it well on camera, there's a seam that kind of goes in the wrapping, which is not on the alpha boosters. So you could just get your finger right under just by pulling up, and then you could just go in and rip them open. So you don't have to worry about like ripping at the top. It makes these a lot easier to open and a lot quicker to kind of get through. So we've got Botanimate, Esperion Steelplate, Leyline Vermin, Magnivorous Ranger, Sated Slayer, Shardplate Delver, Shroudsporn Splicer, Spring Dryad, Toxic Spores, Vine Lash, and our Forgeborn here is a Nova with Nova's Dominion, Nova's Touch, and Nova's Wrath. Alright, and then our last deck from this first booster kit is Aloyan. Having some technical difficulties. It looks like my camera is now moving, so this is great. Yeah, I've never actually had that happen on Twitch before, so thank you everybody who kind of jumped off and jumped back on. So what I'll do is I'll quickly, before I go into this deck, recap the first three that I opened. So there was a really cool purple deck right off the bat. So the first few decks, just because it's not a consistent stream anymore, we had a Vine Lash, Toxic Spores, Spring Dryad, Shroudthorn Splicer, Shardplate Delver, Sated Slayer, Magnivorous Ranger, Leyline Vermin, Esperion Steelplate, Botanimate. The Necrom deck, which is the one I'm the most excited about so far. So let's get back to here. We had a Venerable Spirit, Varnus Pact, Steadfast Summoner, Spite Hydra, a Betrayer Leyline Vermin, an Infernal Ritual, a Grimgrot Predator, a Grave Pact, a Darkheart Sorcerer, and a Bone Scythe Reaver. And then finally, the first Tempest deck that I opened just before the stream crashed, Windspark Elemental, Thunder Stomper, Stout Collar, Steadfast Ice Crusher, Rhymehorn Charger, Piercing Stonefist, Lightning Spark, Hibernating Worm, Chant of Umbrook, and Arrogant Mystic. So we're just about to get into this Aloyan deck when the Aegis Wings broke my stream. So we're starting with an Aegis Wings, an Armored Sculptor, an Energy Prison, an Energy Surge, a Force Field, Metamind Overseer, a Nanoswarm, Norian Battle Droid, a Steel Eye Researcher, a Suppressing Tinkerer, and let's see what the Forgeborn is. It is a Steel Rosetta, which is what I was hoping. It's got Inspire at level 2, Tinker at level 3, and Enhance at level 4. So actually, this deck is pretty solid. For an Aloyan deck, specifically in set 1, there's a lot of really good cards here. The Sculptor, a lot of ways to upgrade. This could be really good in one of those Turbo Krogaius upgrade decks, just with all the fact that it's got so many different upgrade cards and a way to play some free spells. All right, so that was the first booster. So let's get into our next one. There we go. I'm already pretty happy with that first Darkheart deck, though. It seems like something that could be pretty nice in the mirror for Rumblespark, having that Betrayer Leyline Vermin. There are 24 boosters in a case, so I'm on number 2 out of 24. Let's see if any of these have Kickstarter minions. None of these do. Alright, so we'll start with the Aloyan. Alright, we're starting with an Aetherforge Oracle, Lightsteel Gargoyle, Force Field, Lucid Echoes, Protective Operator, Protective Tinkerer, Reinforced Specimen, Steel Eye Researcher, Synapse Justicar, Tech Upgrade, and our Forgeborn here is a Steel Rosetta with a Tinker at 2, Enhance at 3, and Inspire at 4. Alright, let's get into our second Utera deck of the night. Yeah, Carl Testa's like long night. Yeah, I agree. Although if I get through them these pretty quick, I was probably gonna be like maybe like an hour of streaming. An Esperion Steelplate, a Feral Instinct, Hibernating Keeper, a Nap Time, a Pack Druid, a Pack's Blessing, a Primal Surge, Regenerating Packmaster, Relentless Wanderers, Shroudthorn Splicer, and we've got a Nova with Nova's Touch at level 2, Nova's Might at level 3, and Nova's Wrath at level 4. Alright, let's get into our next Tempest. We've got a Combat Collar, Conflagrate, Firefist Uranti, Bit of Rage, Lightning Spark, Stat Warstoker, Undeady, a Uranti Heartseeker, Volcanic Giant, Windspark Elemental, And our Forgeborn here is a Sunder with Stimbolt, Gathering Storm, and Summon the Swarm. So far, there's nothing on this booster that's really jumping out at me yet. So let's see if the Necrom deck has anything interesting. Got Epidemic, Forsaken Spirit, Ghoulish Apparition, Grimgaunt Predator, Lyria, Om Nom Nom, Portal Shade, Scourge Hydra, Soul Reap, Venerable Patron, and our Forgeborn here is a Cersei with Death Touch, Soul Siphon, and Army Commander. Too bad it has Soul Siphon. There are a couple beasts in there with the Beast Within, so that could be a pretty cool deck. Alright. We are going into booster number 3. Trying to rip through these without hurting my nails. Probably should get a scissor, but we'll see if I get lazy with it. Alright. So here, as you can see out of the Kickstarter, we do have one Kickstarter minion out of the Tempest deck. Also, we have a couple nice cards at the very front. We got a Mantis and a Dark card, so we'll probably save those two for last out of this booster. Alright, so we're starting with an Aegis Wings, an Arrogant Scrapper, Energy Surge, Epoch Hawk, Palladium Hintermind, Protective Captain, Shield Bearing Allomancer, Spirit Forge Sentinel, Stout War Charger, War Machine, and our Forgeborn here is an Ironbeard with Knockback, Reinforce, and Shields Up. Alright. This Tempest deck, we got a Chaining Collar on the front, which is really nice. And like I said, we have one of those Kickstarter minions right here. So I'll show that at the end. So we're starting with the Chaining Collar. Chaining Stormling, double chaining is really cool. With an Ice Storm. Piercing Spectre, which is a nice Betrayer here. Stealth and it ignores armor. Primordial Slam. Sparking War Stoker. Steadfast Warhound. Thunder Stomper. Turnabout. Windspark Elemental. And we're finishing with the Sunder with Summon the Swarm, Ice Armor, and Gathering Storm. I think that the double chaining is really exciting for this deck. I wish it had a couple more spells, but here is one of those Kickstarter minions. So we got a Spell Sprite with a Spell Swarm. I really like the art here. Makes me think of a Potato Spell Sprite. Alright, so next we'll start the one with the Combat Mantis on the front. Let's hope for a Forge Seal in here as well. Combat Mantis, Experience Steel's Plate, a Ferocious Ranger, Ferocious Roar, Might of the Herd, Refreshing Featherfang, Regenerating Druid, Rooted Batterhide, Stout Decayosaur, Orgmite Guardian, and our Forgeborn here is an Oros with Barkskin, Growth Aura, and Shapeshift. Alright, so nothing too crazy with that Mantis, but still not a bad deck. Lots of dinos. Alright, next we have a deck with Darkheart. Gotta hope it's something nice for those Rumble Spark builds. So we've got a Darkheart Sorcerer, Ghastly Renewal, Howl of Zith, Lyria, Necrovive, Asori Mech, Portal Shade, Sigmund Fraud, Steadfast Geist, Stout Drake, and our Forgeborn here is a Nyx with Army of the Damned, Raising Dead, and Soul Rip. So nothing too crazy out of that, even though it does have a Darkheart, which is nice. Alright, into the next booster. Also, I just saw that Garangus followed, so thank you so much for that. Alright. No Kickstarter minions out of this one. I do find it interesting that the Kickstarter minions are actually really, really rare out of Kickstarter boosters. Now, out of starters, you get a ton. You get basically one of each in each starter kit, plus you guaranteed one additional Kickstarter minion in one of the decks as well. Alright, so let's open this one. Always when I see a Pokemancer, I hope for a Drix in there as well, because those go really well together. So we got a Pokemancer, Arrogant Inventor, which goes pretty nice with the Pokemancer, Arrogant Tactician, Energy Prison, Energy Surge, Force Field, Orlean Battle Droid, Palladium Pulse Mage, Recycling Virtuoso, Salvage Tinkerer. And our Forgeborn here is a Steel Rosetta with Enhance, Repurpose, and Tinker. So it's an interesting one. Specifically when I see a Pokemancer, I really want to see something with a lot of replacement synergy and a lot of minion generation just to be able to really get good value out of it. And again, for everyone who's tuning in, I'm just trying to go through and open some stuff, see if I get anything like really, really nice, anything optimized. So I'm not going to go too much in detail about individual deck lists as we go. But if anyone has any questions or wants to see one again, just let me know. So we got Everflame Phoenix, Firefist Uranti, Hibernating Ice Crusher, Higher Song, Pyromantic Master, Raging Lasher, Stampeding Razortooth, Steadfast Glider, Stone Skin, Unstable Giant, and our Forgeborn here is a Korok with Whirlwind, Demolish, and Lightning Speed. Next, I'll go into the Necrom deck. I feel like every booster I open, I'm kind of just waiting to see what the Necrom and the Otera deck look like. Alright, so we're starting with an Arrogant Spectre, a Combat Harvester, a Cutthroat Skeleton, a Dreadbolt, an Epidemic, Ghastly Renewal, Lyria, Scourge Hydra, Sigmund Fraud, Spirit Leash, and we've got a Cersei with Soul Siphon, Life Drain, and Army Commander. Alright, and then finally, we'll go into our Utera deck for this booster. I would say the Betrayer Leyline Vermin so far is the one that's the most competitive playable in my opinion. So next we have one with a Botanimate, Druid's Chant, Blowhive Siren, Hibernating Druid, Lead the Charge, Lycian Rain, Spring Dryad, Stout Bear, Swamp Moss Lurker, Palossand, and a Nova with Nova's Might, Nova's Wrath, and Nova's Dominion. There are a lot of really cool cards in here, but like not something that immediately jumps off the page for me. Alright, next booster. I do feel like in a way I'm not necessarily appreciating some of these decks as much as I should as I open them, but part of me also just wants to get through and see if we get anything really cool tonight. After all the SolForge this weekend, I just kind of like really in that SolForge mood. Alright, so let's start with the Tempest list. It's also nice to know that there's the potential of getting a Kickstarter Omni. Just nice, cool legendaries out of the first limited set is always kind of a plus. Arrogant Warstoker, Assailing Stonefist, Disintegrate, Firefist Uranti, Lightning Spark, Piercing Giant, Stampeding Worm, Thunderstomper, Turnabout, Uranti Elementalist, and a Korok with Lightning Speed, Whirlwind, and Demolish. I do think that Uranti Elementalist is one of my favorite cards. It's just such a strong one. Every time I see it in a Tempest deck, I am very, very happy. Alright, next we've got Aetherforge Oracle, Bright Steel Sentinel, Combat Assassin. We've got a Drix, Electronet, Energy Surge, Epoch Hawk, Gauntlets of Silgrim, Spirit Forge Sentinel, Steel Eye Researcher, which is really nice with that Drix. And finally, we've got a Steel Rosetta with Repurpose, Enhance, and Tinker. So there is some minion generation, which is nice. I wish there was a little bit more with maybe like Tinker at level 2 just for that Steel Eye, but it's still not bad. I like to see Drix anytime I can. I miss it from set 2. Alright, next we'll open the Necrom list. We've got an Arrogant Apparition, Dr. Frankenbaum, Hematophagic Patron, Necrotic Amoeba, Ossuary Mech, Scourge Hydra, Shambling Slime, Sigmund Fraud, Soul Reap, Varnus Pact, and a Cersei with Life Drain, Army Commander, and Soul Siphon. So I think that is the first Shambler of the night. Actually, let me clear up some of this trash real quick. And so far, out of like 5 or 6 boosters, we've only opened 1 Kickstarter minion, so they are pretty rare. Alright, so we've got a Combat Druid, Combat Slayer, Feral Instinct, Grove Mother, Roaring Bartok, a Rooted Packmaster, Soothing Batterhide, Torg My Guardian, Toxic Spores, Terra Charger, and a Nova with a Nova's Dominion, Nova's Might, and Nova's Touch. Alright. We're on to the next booster. I would say we're probably 2 boosters under a quarter of the case. We've still got a lot to go. Alright. So we'll start with the Allion here. With an Aegis Wings, Apocalypser, Bright Steel Sandal, Digitize, First Digitize, with a Drix too, Electronet, Force Field, Rallying War Charger with that Drix and Apocalypser is real nice, Shield Bearing Techno Hulk, War Machine. This is not a bad deck. I like this one actually a lot. With a Tinker at level 2, Enhance at level 3, and Inspire at level 4. Just want to double check this real quick. Yeah, this is pretty solid. Nothing like super great competitively, but one that I think would be a lot of fun to play. Alright. Next we're going to open the Sutera deck. Cardboard Newt with the Burn It, if I must. Asperian Steel Plate, Elysian Rain, a Magnavarous Polymorpher, Nap Time, Shifting Batterhide, Stampeding Mantis, a Stout Bartok, Stout Keeper, Terra Charger, Venerable Bear. And we have an Oros with Barkskin, Shapeshift, and Darkforge Drain. Alright, next we'll go to the Tempest. Got a Combat Ice Crusher, Conflagrate, Disintegrate, Firestorm, Bit of Rage, Inflaming Breaker, Inflaming Stonefist, Stampeding Mongosaur. Lots of stampeding words I'm saying here. Stormcaller, and we've got a Korok with a Flame Strike, Lightning Speed, and Whirlwind. So there is actually a cool deck. I just have to get it out of the bottom of this pile. I didn't separate it yet, but let me just quickly get this to the side. I did open a really cool Leyline Vermin Betrayer with a Dark Heart and some other stuff. Just gotta find it real quick. I think it's like right at the bottom of the pile. This was the first booster I opened. Alright. Here we go. Alright, so here we go. Just get that pile so it's not going to fall over while we're going. So this was the coolest one I've opened so far. It didn't have a Cersei. It was a Venerable Spectre, Varnus Pact, Steadfast Summoner, Spite Hydra, the Betrayer Leyline, Infernal Ritual, Grim Gaunt, Grave Pact, Dark Heart, and Bone Scythe. So it's got a couple ways just to destroy your own creatures, specifically with the whole Rumble Spark combos with the Infernal Ritual and the Grave Pact. It's got a lot of stealth as well, which can help push over damage for your Nova. So it's an interesting list. It might be okay with a Rumble Spark, especially because in the mirror, being able to ley line and block out and kill their Rumble Spark could be really cool. Alright, so let's get into the next one. So this is the last from this booster. We start with an Arrogant Walker, Discian Siphon, Ghastly Renewal, Hibernating Reaper, Ossuary Mech, Tormenting Slime, Venerable Creeper, Venerable Drake, Venerable Stitcher, and Dirk's Embrace. The triple modifiers, I'd rather it not be Venerable, but it's not a horrible deck, but it's got Nyx as well, which is not ideal. Alright, So let's do our next booster. This looks like this is booster number 6. I'm going to have a lot of fun scanning these in when we're done. I might just do it tomorrow, to be honest. All right. I will start with an Aloyan here. We got Aetherforge Oracle, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Epoch Hawk, Epoch Soldier, Force Field, Heavy Artillery, Shield-Bearing Tactician, Voltaic Prophet, War Machine, Warmonger Mod, and an Ironbeard with Knockback, Intimidate, and Shields Up. Part of me thinks it would be funny to hold like a specific Ironbeard tournament where everyone has to use a set 1 Ironbeard and see what's the best deck they can make. Alright, so next we'll go into Tempest. We've got Burnout, Conflagrate, Everflame Aura, Firefist Guarantee. This one's starting out pretty good. Ice Storm, Pyre Song, Steadfast Mystic, Stone Skin, Unstable Breaker, Venerable Razortooth. I feel like that Venerable Razortooth kind of ruined it for me. With a Flame Strike, Whirlwind, and Demolish. This one actually had 6 spells, it looks like. Yep, it was a 6 speller. So a lot of ways to pump the Fire Fist. That's a pretty special one. Yeah, that's a good point. Razortooth with life gain is a pretty solid option right now. Alright, we got that Glow Hive. It's a pretty solid starting card. Glow Hive, Mystical Hunter, Pack Ranger, Primal Surge, Spring Dryad, Stout Batterhide, Stout Hide Stegodon, Toxic Spores, Pterodon Mauler, Vine Lash. With a Growth Aura, Shapeshift, and Bark Skin. Yeah, this is actually not a bad Utera deck. Lots of life gain with Primal Surge, Glow Hive. I wish it had like a Kindred or something, but still there's just a lot of options in this one. Yeah, that's not a bad one at all. Alright, the last one here is a Necrom for this booster. We've got Bone Scythe Reaver, Commanding Stitcher, Dreadbolt, Lyria, Portal Shade, Stout Amoeba, Tormenting Slime, Empiric Demon, Venerable Necromancer, and Xerath's Will. With a Nyx, Soul Rip, Dark Summoning, and Raising Dead. Alright, let's get on to the next booster. I know Cardboard Newt was like, burn half the cards. I do actually have the fear every once in a while of like, man, if my apartment ever caught fire, like, I would lose so much in all the card games that I have way too many cards of. There was actually a fire in one of the buildings, like, across the street from mine, like, about 2 months ago, and that was terrifying to hear about. Alright, so we'll start with the Apocalypser list here. And we do have a Mantis coming up, hopefully. It's a good list. Alright, so starting with an Apocalypser, an Arrogant Drone. I really like Arrogant Drone because of the stealth and the big attack. Bolstering Warden, Combat War Charger, Scythian Experimentation, Energy Prison, Energy Surge, Force Field, Taunting Prophet, Warmonger Mod, and an Ironbeard with Knockback, Shields Up, and Reinforce. Alright, next we've got Tempest, Combat Warstoker, Everflame Phoenix, Fleet Ice Crusher, Freezing Omni, nice Kickstarter Omni, Ice Storm, Rhymehorn Charger, Stampeding Mongosaur, Thundersaur, Thunderstomper, Venerable Worm. With a Sunder with Gathering Storm, Stimbolt, and Ice Armor. Alright. Yeah, I always enjoy those Kickstarter omnis. Next, we're going through the Necrom. Alright, Arrogant Creeper, Bone Scythe Reaver, Combat Stitcher, Corrupt Demon, Dreadbolt, Ghoulish Geist, Necrotic Amoeba, Vampiric Slime, Venerable Shambler, Varric's Embrace. A Cersei with Death Touch, Life Drain, and Soul Siphon to ruin it. Alright, next we've got a deck with an Armored Mantis at the front. It's a Mantis that starts with A, which means there's also a potential of Krogius, so you'll never know. Armored Mantis, Vendrify, Hesperian Steelplate, Everflow Eidolon, Ferocious Roar, Leyline Vermin, Might of the Herd, Sated Batterhide, Soothing Decayosaur, Stouthide Stegodon. And we've got it with an Oros, with Barkskin, Growth Aura, and Shapeshift. Alright. Another booster. So I would say so far there's probably been like 3 or 4 decks out of the 9 or 10 that I've opened 9 or 10 boosters so far that I would say are more on the competitive side that I would consider playing. We've got our first Blight Witch, which is nice. Oh, and here's another Kickstarter minion, which I'll show at the end. We've got Aetherforge Oracle, Arrogant Virtuoso, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Combat Prophet, Scypian Experimentation, Palladium Simulacrum, Protective War Charger, Rallying Techno Hulk, Steadfast Sentry, Warmonger Mod, and our Forge one right here is a Steel Rosetta with Repurpose, Enhance, and Tinker. And here is our second of our Kickstarter minions so far that we've opened. This one is a Kickstarter Gizmo. It's very off-center too, which is interesting. It's on-center one side, off-center the other, which that's some interesting printing right there. Next we'll go Tempest. We've got Bending Mystic, Blizzard Shaman, Combat Breaker, Flaming Razortooth, Raging Colossus, Rhyme Charger, Steadfast Worm, Stone Skin, Turnabout, Undeady, and we've got a Korok with a Lightning Speed, Demolish, and Whirlwind. Alright, so now we'll go into Terra. Got Combat Ranger, Druid's Chant, Hesperian Steel Plate, Feral Instinct, Grove Mother, Magnavarous Basher, Mystical Tingle Sprout, Primal Surge, Shifting Slayer, Shroudborn Splicer, and an Oros with Dark Forge Drain, Shapeshift, and Barkskin. I really do like Magnavarous Basher if it's in a solid deck, just because with all the spells that are being played right now, if you could just keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger, it's just big breakthrough damage that you can just keep pumping, makes your opponents kind of not want to play spells. Alright, so we're starting with a Blight Witch, a Cersei's Call, looking good so far. I know it's only 2 cards. Gloom Reaper Hag, Grave Pact, Indomitable Fiend, Necrovive, Portal Shade, Spite Hydra, Varric's Embrace, Zera's Will. It's not a bad deck. With a Nyx, Soul Rip, Raising Dead, and Dark Summoning. Always hoping that those are coming with a Cersei. Alright, here's the next booster. Ooh, we got 2 Kickstarter minions in this one. And another Glow Hive. Alright. Here's an Aetherforge Oracle, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Bright Steel Sentinel, Scypian Augmentation, Digitize, Force Field, Orlean Battle Droid, Palladium Hintermind, Palladium Simulacrum, Steadfast Tinkerer, and an Ironbeard with Knockback, Reinforce, and Intimidate. So this one's top tier because it has one of those digitizes. So next we've got Arrogant Giant, Burnout, Firefist Uranti, Fleet Stonefist, Hibernating Lasher, Piercing Rex, our first Rex, Fire Song, Reckless Caller, Thunder Stomper, Unspark Elemental, and Sunder with Stimbolt, Gathering Storm, and Ice Armor. Alright, next we got our Necrom. Got a Gloom Reaper Hag, Grave Pact, Grimgaunt Predator, Nom Nom, Ossuary Mech, Portal Shade, Soul Reap, Spite Hydra, Venerable Drake, and a Zimus. With a Nyx, with a Dark Summoning, Soul Rip, and Raising Dead. Alright, last we got the Utera. Oop, actually, I almost forgot to grab the Kickstarter minion out of this one. Oh, I don't know where I put it. Oh, I'll grab that later. But there was a Kickstarter zombie in that one. Alright, you got with the Glowhive, Hibernating Polymorpher, Lead the Charge, Refreshing Hunter, Relentless Wanderers, Roaring Ranger, Savage Oath, Transcendent Biologist, Venerable Slayer, Vine Lash, and a Nova. So we got Nova's Touch, Nova's Wrath, and Nova's Dominion. So there's actually a question that just came through. What do you think is the least played Forge one right now, and why is it Crux? Honestly, I think just Aloyan doesn't get enough love. There are some really good cards in Aloyan that really should see more play. But right now the meta is kind of very much green, purple, green, red, or sorry, purple, red, and green, red. So there's not a lot of blue, and the blue ones that people want to play tend to have Steel Rosetta, just because of all the upgrade abilities. But I do think Crux is a great card. It's one that I've actually, I'm sad to say, I think I've only played with one Crux once during Sealed. I've never actually built any Crux decks just because I think it's just there's so many other things that I've been wanting to play lately, and I know Crux is really solid. Like every time I play against it, I'm like, wow, why am I not playing this? And then I just never get around to it. All right. All right, so let's start with the Tempest here. The Seer Mech Mage is actually really good with a couple new cards. The one that makes the Scrap Bot and lets you reanimate it is a really solid combo. All right, so we'll start with the Seer Mech Mage, Blizzard Shaman, Chant of Umbrek, Firestorm, Lightning Spark, Staff of Varus, Stampeding Caller, Stampeding Mongosaur, Stampeding Warhound, Venerable Adept, and we've got a Korok. Lightning Speed, Demolish, and Flame Strike. And we do have another Kickstarter minion. Sculptor is one of those cards that, which is going to be the first one here, that I love and I just never play because I'm not playing Aloyan too much. Alright, so you've got Armored Sculptor, Energy Surge, Epoch Soldier, Force Field, Recycling Drone, Spirit Force Sentinel, Stout Virtuoso, Suppressing Captain, Tech Upgrade, Venerable Techno Hulk. And we've got an Ironbeard with Intimidate, Reinforce, and Knockback. Alright, next we'll go Terra. The Tanimate's another one I like to see as a face card. So there's a lot of options for some really good cards behind it, like ABC order-wise. So we got the Tanimate, Lead the Charge, Mystical War Tusk, Roaring Raptor, Soothing Bear, Stampeding Featherfang, Stouthide Stegodon, Palisan, Toxic Spores, Venerable Slayer, Tanimate. Oh, whoops, I went around the corner. And then we've got a Nova with Nova's Might, Nova's Touch, and Nova's Wrath. So it's interesting. I actually think we've only hit one Betrayer so far. Maybe there was a second one that I'm not thinking about. So it's usually about 1 in 10. Alright, next we have an Abyssal Spectre, Bone Scythe Reaver, Dreadbolt, Dissient Siphon, Hibernating Drake, Infernal Ritual, Shambling Banshee, Steadfast Fiend, Empiric Spirit, Zaris Will. We've got a Cersei with Death Touch, Soul Siphon, and Army Commander. Alright. This is the halfway point of the case. I feel like I've opened some, like, times when I've opened cases and stuff like this before. Sometimes I'll open, like, a lot of great stuff. Sometimes there'll be a lot of more interesting decks. Sometimes there's kind of a lot more of the middle of the pack stuff. I think it's like I've found that a lot of times good stuff tends to be clumped with good stuff. And, like, actually, I opened a case recently that had 24 boosters, 0 Dark Heart Sorcerers, but then I had 2 Forge Seal Mantis decks, which was interesting distribution. Alright, so we're starting with an Aloyan with Aetherforge Oracle, Apocalypser, Drix, that's nice so far, Lucid Echoes, Nanoswarm, Palladium Hintermind, Palladium Simulacrum, Spirit Force Sentinel, Betrayer Stampeding Mongosaur, Stout Prophet. I feel like the Stout Prophet's the only card I really don't want in here. And it's got an Ironbeard, unfortunately, with Knockback, Reinforce, and Shields Up. But this is a pretty solid one. Lots of upgrade, Apocalypser Drix. I feel like if I had just like a Steel Eye instead of the Stout, whatever it was called, Stout Prophet, I would have been very happy. Alright. Next we got Tempest. Cardboard Newt with the decks that I've seen you pull today feel like my draws today. Alright. Arrogant Ice Crusher, Firefist Uranti, Firestorm, Fleet Warhound, Staff of Varus, Stampeding Mongosaur, Stoneskin, Stormcaller, Thundersaur, Uranti Heartseeker, and we've got a Sunder with Gathering Storm, Stimbolt, and Summon the Swarm. Alright. There. Next we're going to go Necrom. I do agree, Uranti Heartseeker is a card that doesn't get played enough, and its level 3 is so good. Like, giving everything breakthrough over a certain power is insane if you get to cycle 3 or level 3. Alright, we got Arrogant Demon, Camouflage Skeleton, Dr. Frankenbaum, Epidemic, Ghastly Renewal, Hematophagic Creeper, Infernal Ritual, Om Nom Nom, Spirit Reaver, Zimus, and we've got a Nyx with Dark Summoning, Army of the Damned, and Raising Dead. Alright, finally we've got our Terra deck from this. Start with a Hibernating Dechaosaur, Might of the Herd, Mystical Tingle Sprout, Mystical War Tusk, Nap Time, Pax Blessing, Shroudthorn Splicer, Soothing Batterhide, Stampeding Hunter, Torgmai Guardian, and a Nova with Nova's Touch, Nova's Dominion, and Nova's Wrath. I am really upset that in set 2, when they made Nova's Bounty, they just called it Bounty instead of Nova's Bounty. I really enjoyed every Nova ability just had Novas in front of it. Actually, I do agree with Ankh that the Nyx setup and the one I just opened was pretty solid. I really like it when it makes 1 Brute, 2 Brutes, and then whatever the third ability can be, whatever it is. Yeah, Billy Bad Aim just asked, are we at the point with Nova that every Dark Heart Sorcerer deck is evaluated for Nova first and then other things? I kind of think that's where we're at right now, just because it's such a good... like, here's a Dark Heart deck. The first thing I'm going to do is look at if it's good for a Nova Elementalist. It's just a format warping deck and archetype that it's the first thing I always look for. Alright, so let's open that one last. Alright, we got Aegis Wings as our first card here. One day I'm really hoping I open a minion that's kind of miscut to the point where you see the next minion over. They're getting close on some of these. So we got an Aegis Wings, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Epoch Soldier, Forge Plate Yeti, Heavy Artillery, Nanoswarm, Arlean Battle Droid, Recycling Virtuoso, Voltaic Prophet, War Machine with a Steel Rosetta, with Tinker, Inspire, and Enhance. Alright. Next we're going to go into our Tempest. We're starting with an Arrogant Breaker, Blizzard Shaman, Conflagrate, Everflame Aura, Firestorm, Rhymehorn Charger, Scorchmane Dragon, Sparking Giant, Thunderstomper, Undeady, and a Korok with a Flame Strike, Lightning Speed, and Whirlwind. Alright, next we're going into our Terra deck. We got Experience, Steel Plate, Ferocious Roar, Blowhive Siren, Leyline Vermin, Might of the Herd, Nap Time, Shardplate Delver, Shifting Basher, Stampeding Slayer, Summoning Council, and we've got a Nova with Nova's Touch, Nova's Dominion, and Nova's Wrath. So I would say we're definitely so far pretty late on Betrayers, so hopefully the second half of this case is really going to have a lot more. So this is booster, I think, 13 out of 24. Alright, we've got a Darkheart Sorcerer here with an Indomitable Fiend, Infernal Ritual, Portal Shade, Raging Spirit, Spirit Leash, Stout Spectre, Zithian Dreadmaw, Zaret's Will, and Azimus. Not one that I would play with a Nova Elementalist. It's got Death Touch, Life Drain, and Soul Siphon. Alright, next booster. Yep, not good with Nova. We gotta burn it. Maybe that's how I'll end the stream. We'll go find a lighter and just burn that deck right at the end. Alright. We've got an Adaptive Specimen, Pockemancer, Armored Inventor, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Electronet, Gauntlets of Solgrim, Lucid Echoes, Palladium Simulacrum, Steel Eye Researcher, Voltaic Prophet, and a Steel Rosetta with Enhance, Tinker, and Inspire. I do feel like I've seen a lot of Apocrymancer tonight for it being a rare. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't light any cards on fire in my apartment after one of the buildings burned down in my complex. Good call, Cardboard Newt. So, Chant of Umbrook, Firestorm, Flamebreak Invoker, Fleetworm, Hibernating Ice Crusher, Lightning Tamer, Stormcaller, Summoning Warstoker, Thundersoar, Turnabout, and we've got a Korok here with a Whirlwind, Demolish, and Lightning Speed. I don't know why it will not focus for this one. There we go. One thing I've noticed is Flame Shaper Savant. It seems to be really hard to pull in Kickstarter. It's something that I feel like out of a lot of the Kickstarter stuff I've opened, I've maybe opened like 3 or 4. Alright, we've got a Bone Scythe Reaver, Cersei's Call, Cutthroat Apparition, Ghoulish Fiend, Grave Pact, Owl of Zith, Raging Banshee, Steadfast Shambler, Varnus Pact, Zithian Dreadmaw, and we've got a Nyx with Army of the Damned, Raising Dead, and Dark Summoning. Alright. We've got an Experience Steel Plate, Feral Instinct, Ferocious Slayer, Leyline Vermin, Might of the Herd, Mystical Tingle Sprout, got a Pack Rex, Sated Matriarch, Soothing Bear, Talisan. And we've got a Nova's Touch, Nova's Dominion, and Nova's Might. So funny story, I'm pretty sure that Nova's, like all the Nova abilities were like, these were like placeholders from what I remember Shadow saying. So like everything like Nova's Touch was supposed to be something else, like how there's Tinker, Inspire, Army of the Damned, so on. And I think they just left it in the draft version, and that's just kind of what ended up going out on the cards. But I don't think it was intentional from what I remember seeing in some of the threads months ago. All right, so here's a question. What's your opinion on Talasan? So I think Talasan's an awesome card, but it's a risky card because obviously giving your opponents free plays is always going to be hard. Um, I think it's something that you have to look a lot at your opponent's deck list. And if I play Talasan, I really want to have either something where I'm going to benefit so much from it that it's okay that my opponent also gets benefit, or I want to kind of have other ways to upgrade it where I don't have to play the levels 1 and 2. I think level 3 Talasan is one of the strongest cards in the game, just because of the fact that just getting an extra free card every turn once it's out, especially if you could play it off Forge and just get it out and keep it out for 2 turns, it can be a game changer. Like I've definitely won games and I've lost games because of a level 3 Talasan, either on my side or my opponent's side. All right, Arrogant Assassin, Bolstering Allomancer, Bright Steel Sentinel, Epoch Hawk, Force Field, Palladium Hintermind, Salvage Warden, Spirit Forge Sentinel, Stabilizing Specimen, Venerable Virtuoso, and we've got a Steel Rosetta with Enhance, Inspire, and Tinker. I feel like we need to start picking up the pulls a little bit. I've only gotten, I think, 2 Betrayers and really only like 3 decks that I've set aside in a spot that's like other than just kind of the main pile. So nothing too crazy yet, but we still have a lot to go. All right, Arrogant Lasher, Combat Warstoker, Ice Storm, Lightning Spark, Raging Warhound, Stampeding Mongosaur, Thunderstar, Thunderstomper, Turnabout, Volcanic Worm, and we've got a Sunder here with Ice Armor, Stimbolt, and Gathering Storm. So some of these decks that it looks like I might be dismissing, they're not like necessarily bad decks, but I'm specifically looking for something that's like really optimized for competitive play. So if I see stuff like Arrogant, Combat, like some of the like Venerable, the ones that are just kind of okay in certain situations, but they're not really getting me a lot of extra value, I tend to not gravitate towards those decks. Not saying that they can't be good, but I'm looking for something where every card is going to give me a lot of benefit. So next we got an Asperian Steelplate, Ferocious Batterhide, Mystical Tangle Sprout, a Shardplate Delver, Stouthide Stegodon, Summoning Council, Swamp Moss Lurker, Talasan, Torgmai Guardian, Vine Lash. So that's kind of a deck that has a lot of cards that all have multi-purpose and all could kind of do a lot of things. So that's something that I kind of enjoy. So we've got Nova's Dominion, Nova's Might, and Nova's Touch. All right, here's the last Necrom deck of this booster. I do agree that's one of the good Novas. Arrogant Geist, Camouflage Meba, Corrupt Shambler, Epidemic, Grave Pact, Hibernating Skeleton, Hibernating Technician. This is one of those Betrayers that doesn't feel as great. Granted, it's a number 1, which is cool, but it's like, it doesn't really have any base abilities, so it just kind of feels but it's still not bad. So we got a Hibernating Technician, Howl of Zith, Ossuary Mech, Spite Hydra, and a Cersei with Soul Siphon, Army Commander, and Death Touch. So it's a Betrayer, so I'll still put it in the highlights pile. Alright, next booster. Alright. We've got an Adaptive Virtuoso, Aegis Wings, Bolstering Inventor, Bright Steel Sentinel, Electronet, Energy Prison, Gauntlets of Solgrim, Palladium Pulse Mage, Steadfast Assassin, Suppressing Techno Hulk, and a Steel Rosetta with Inspire, Repurpose, and Tinker. So as Burnout's on the front of this. Burnout's a card actually I've been finding more and more that I really like. It's a card I didn't play a lot earlier in the game, but like the more I've been playing Red, I really like Burnout. So we got a Burnout, Disintegrate, Firefist Uranti, Flamebreak Invoker, Scorchmane Dragon, Thunderstomper, Undeady, Uranti Heartseeker, Venerable Master, and a Yeti Warcaller. That could be a pretty solid mobility base, actually, that deck. It's got a Gathering Storm, Ice Armor, and Summon the Swarm. One of my favorite cards is Flamebreak Invoker lately as well. Just giving everything aggressive and potentially buffing at level 3 can be really good with a Palladium Simulacrum. And anytime I see Yeti Warcaller, I immediately am like, oh, that could be a mobility deck. Alright. We got Arrogant Decayosaur, Krogaius, Lycian Rain, Shifting Bear, Spring Dryad, Summoning Council, Orgmite Guardian, Terra Charger, Venerable Basher, Venerable Batterhide, and we've got an Oros with Dark Forge Drain, Growth Aura, and Bark Skin. So this one, it's got some interesting cards. It doesn't really have a ton of spells for the Dark Forge Drain. That's one of those things where, actually, out of all this is the first Krogius I saw, which is interesting. So I've already opened quite a few decks. I've seen a lot more of quite a few other cards. Like I've seen probably quadruple the number of Apocomancers so far. Epidemic, Forsaken Reaper, Indomitable Fiend, Necrotic Creeper, Osori Mech, Portal Shade, Raging Amoeba, Scourge Hydra, Stout Fiend, Venerable Skeleton. And we've got a Nyx with Raising Dead, Soul Rip, and Army of the Damned. Alright. We're almost 3/4 of the way through. Interesting. So I know this is set 2, but what do you think of Arboris? That card, honestly, I feel like it ends up being more of a win more card. If you're at 50 life during cycle 3 where you're getting it to be 100 breakthrough, I get that it's going to potentially be the game finisher. But having to be at that life total, you're in a good spot anyway, and it could be removed by Dreadbolt immediately. So it's you put a lot of investment into it, especially if your goal is to try to keep your life up, specifically for it. So it's a card that I think is interesting. I don't hate it because it has breakthrough at the other levels, but the level 3, a lot of times, is not going to proc unless you get a really, really good life gain deck with it. But most of the really, really strong life gain decks end up being in set 1. So that's what I've found, at least. But if I had an Arboris with a Carnivorous Taro and a couple other ways to gain life, I would consider playing it. I do have actually a Betrayer Arboris in Necrom, but it's something I tried it and it still just was a little underwhelming, unfortunately. So we got Nasir Mech Mage, Burnout, Ice Storm, Lightning Spark, Piercing Stormling, Steadfast Worm, Stone Skin, Summoning Caller, Thunder Stomper, Volcanic Colossus, and a Korok with Lightning Speed, Flame Strike, and Whirlwind. Alright, next we've got Palladium Pulse Mage, Protective Tinkerer, Orlean Battle Droid, Lucid Echoes, Combat Specimen, Scypian Experimentation, Force Field, Aegis Knight, Bright Steel Gargoyle, Steadfast Assassin. This is one of those interesting ones that's actually out of ABC order. So it's got Tinker, Inspire, and Repurpose. Alright, next we're going to go into the Utera. I do like Lightning Speed too as well. Alright, so Combat Druid, Dendrify, Refreshing Packmaster, Roaring Batterhide, Shifting Bartok, Shroudthorn Splicer, Soothing Ranger, Stout Bear, Toxic Spores, Venerable Keeper, and we've got an Oros with Dark Forge Drain, Shapeshift, and Growth Aura. Alright, next we've got the Necrom. We've got Broodfang, Camouflage Geist, Devouring Shambler, Epidemic, Infernal Ritual, Lyria, Necrotic Apparition, Spite Hydra, Zeric's Embrace, Zeric's Will. It's got a Nyx with Soul Rip, Raising Dead, and Dark Summoning. Devouring Shambler is actually one of the Shamblers I've come to really enjoy, just because, granted, its stats aren't the best, but being able to have removal on a Shambler tends to be really good. But actually, I really agree. Lightning speed 2 with breakthrough creatures is absolutely nuts. Yeah, and if you have a Mantis, you could do it twice off Forge. That's definitely very, very potentially lethal. I've got to double check. I know I have a Betrayer Fleet Mantis in one of my decks. I've got to see if it's got something with lightning speed too, because that would actually be really cool as a potential option. Oop. Cardboard Nuke going to check. All right, so we've got an Armored Justicar, Armored Sculptor, Camouflage Virtuoso, Charge Plated Specimen. That one's always fun just with the potential 34 damage. Combat Allomancer, Combat Sentry, Electronet, Palladium Hintermind, Sonic Burst, Warmonger Mod. That comes with an Ironbeard with Reinforce, Shields Up, and Intimidate. Alright, next we've got Tempest. We've got Conflagrate, Disintegrate, Fire Fist Uranti, Lightning Tamer, Raging Glider, Rimehorde Charger, Stone Skin, Thundersoar, Uranti Elementalist, Windspark Elemental. I actually really like this one. There's a lot of aggressive cards, a lot of ways to deal damage. Disintegrate's always a great card. So it's got Lightning Speed 2, Flame Strike 3, and Whirlwind. So anyone who was thinking about what Lightning Speed was, it gives your creatures +2 and aggressive. So whenever you're off Forge, just being able to do that multiple times could be game breaking. Just like being able to play a bunch of aggressive creatures or breakthrough creatures that can do a lot of damage can be really, really strong. And yeah, if you could Mantis that with a bunch of other breakthrough creatures too, it could completely take over the game. So we got Arrogant Slayer, Botanimate, Camouflage Polymorpher, Experienced Steelplate, Ferocious Ravager, Talasan, Torg Guardian, Toxic Spores, Venerable Matriarch, Vine Lash, with a Nova's Touch, Nova's Wrath, and Nova's Might. There we go. Yeah, and then Carl just asked, would I consider doing fused deck reviews? If you submit decks, I comment on strength weaknesses. Anybody at any time, if you have decks that you want me to look at, I'm happy to do so. If it's something that you guys want me to stream or record videos for, I'm very, very happy to do so. I have a fairly large collection, and I've made a lot of decks, so I'm definitely happy to give my perspective based on just the experience that I have, deck building and everything like that, and just any sort of play that I've seen. So yeah, anytime anybody wants me to do any sort of deck reviews, just let me know, and I'm happy to do so. I know there's a lot of people in the community too who are very good with that too. So yeah, just I would say honestly, anytime, like if you're a newer player, older player, like always feel free to reach out to any of us. Everybody's definitely very happy and willing to help. So we've got Odyssean Siphon, Gloom Reaper Hag, Grave Pact, Necrotic Slime, Shambling Spectre, Sigmund Fraud, Spirit Leash, Spite Hydra, Stout Fiend, Zimus. And it's got a Nyx with an Army of the Damned, Raising Dead, Army of the Damned, and Soul Rip. So Cardboard Nuke just updated my collection manager, but my Fleet Mantis has a lightning speed too. I actually got to look at that deck again. That one might be a very fun deck to play, and it has 2.5 breakthrough creatures too. Huh. That's one of the things about having a lot of decks is there's a lot of decks that I want to play that I just don't really have a ton of time to do. So it's like I just got to build decks and play them. I really want to start using the random generated deck builder through Tabletop Simulator or things like that. All right. Yeah, Shambling Spectre is really strong. Anything with evasion on a Shambler is always very, very good. All right, so next we've got Arrogant Stormling. Oh, the first Flame Shaper Savant. I mentioned earlier that I didn't see any of those. Fleet Giant, Raging Mystic, Reckless Breaker, Staff of Varus, Stampeding Worm, Steadfast Stone Fist, Summoning Caller, Turnabout, and we've got a Korok with Lightning Speed 2, Whirlwind, and Flame Strike. Yeah, and I know Cardboard Newt's definitely been discussing doing some sort of random deck stream live kind of weekly thing. So I think if they start doing that, that'll be a really fun thing for the community. I think it's a great idea. All right, so we've got Aetherforge Oracle, another Apocomancer, Brightsteel Gargoyle, Camouflage Virtuoso, Charge Plated Assassin, Energy Prison, Force Field, Palladium Hintermind, Shield Bearing Warcharger, Spirit Force Sentinel, and a Steel Rosetta with Tinker, Inspire, and Enhance. Alright, next we'll go into the Necrom. Before I forget, let's put the Kickstarter minion there. I'm going to have to go through all these and pull out a bunch of Kickstarter minions that I might have missed. So we got an Abyssal Walker. That's actually a pretty solid Walker modification, or modifier. Bone Scythe Reaver, Devouring Necromancer. This one's starting really strong. Dr. Frankenbaum, Ghastly Renewal, Necrovive, Scourge Hydra, Swing of Fraud, Spirit Leash, Venerable Apparition. It didn't end as strong as I would have hoped. It's got Cersei with an Army Commander 2, Soul Siphon, and Life Drain. There's definitely a lot of really solid cards and modifiers in this one. But it's something you'd probably have to play a different Forgeborn. You've got Elysian Rain, Pact the Chaosaur, Pax Blessing, Refreshing Rex, Stout Druid, Stout Hide Stegodon, Summoning Council, Toxic Spores, Transcendent Biologist, and Venerable Bartok. That's like a pretty solid minion deck, actually. There's a lot of ways to generate minions. It's got Scape Shift, Dark Forge Drain, and Bark Skin. Yeah, that's a pretty solid one. Alright, so we've got 5 boosters left. We're getting close to the end. I do feel like this was a relatively overwhelming case, or underwhelming case so far. Not to say that anything crazy needs to be pulled. I know yesterday I was opening some boosters. I had like a triple Vampiric deck with a Shambler. I had a bunch of Forge Seal Mantis decks and things like that. So I feel like today has been a little less exciting, but there's been some cool stuff so far. Oh yeah, and I had a Shambling Shambler too yesterday, actually, too. Alright, starting with the Combat Sentry, Electronet, Energy Prison, Force Field, Palladium Simulacrum, Salvage Alamancer, Stout Inventor, War Machine, Warmonger Mod, Suppressing Techno Hulk. That's got a Steel Rosetta with Inspire, Tinker, and Enhance. Next, we're going to go Tempest with the Blizzard Shaman, Combat Giant, Combat Stonefist, Conflagrate, Everflame Phoenix, Hibernating Colossus, Ice Storm, Reckless Master, Steadfast Ice Crusher, Thundersoar. A lot of those underwhelming modifiers, unfortunately, with a Summon the Swarm, Gathering Storm, and Ice Armor. Alright. We're starting out with an Armored Rex, Tanimate, Ferocious Slayer, Lycian Rain, Magnevorous Brasher, Soothing Dechaosaur, Stout Wartusk, Stout Hide Stegodon, Summoning Council, Torg My Guardian. That's a pretty solid one for a Dino deck. It's got Nova's Dominion, Nova's Touch, and Nova's Might. So it's quite a few dinos there with a Botanimate. A lot of ways just to kind of have some removal, breakthrough, so on. Alright, next we've got a Blight Witch deck. Alright, we've got Blight Witch, Combat Harvester, Corrupt Slime, Dr. Frankenbaum, Ghastly Renewal, Gloom Reaper Hag, Brave Pact, Necrovive, Spite Hydra, Scythian Dreadmaw, with a Nyx with an Army of the Damned, Dark Summoning, and Soul Rip. Not enough spells there, unfortunately. Thundersoar is a beast until it gets synapsed. That's always a feels bad moment. I agree 100%. Gorgeous. Yeah, you play it out there as a blocker and they're just like, destroy it because it's got 0 power. this is the fourth to last. We got Aetherforge Oracle, Arrogant Drone, Brightsteel Sentinel, Sipient Augmentation, Energy Surge, Epoch Hawk, Epoch Soldier, Steadfast Scavenger, Venerable Captain, War Machine. We got a Steel Rosetta. Inspire, Repurpose, and Tinker. Alright, next we have a Combat Stonefist, Firefist Uranti, Flameshaper Savant, Lightning Spark, Ramhorn Charger, Scorchmane Dragon, Staff of Varus, Steadfast Master, Venerable Ice Crusher, Yeti Warcaller. It's got a Sunder with Summon the Swarm at level 2, Ice Armor at level 3, and Stimbolt at level 4. So whenever you have a Flameshaper Savant, obviously Summon the Swarm at level 2 is probably the best Sunder ability you could ask for, just to make multiple level 1 creatures and be able to get as much advantage out of that playing a level 1 creature as possible for the Flameshaper Savant. Ooh, this deck is bent at the bottom. That's not great. Hopefully it's not a super good one. Well, I hope it's a good one, but that's unfortunate that the Stitcher's bent. Alright, so we got a Combat Stitcher, Commanding Drake, Devouring Spectre, Gloom Reaper Hag, Grave Pact, Hibernating Spirit, Howl of Zith, Varnus Pact, Zithian Dreadmaw, Zeraswill, and it's got a Cersei with Life Drain, Soul Siphon, and Army Commander. I guess I don't really have to super worry about that one, because it's a little damaged, but I don't know if that's one I'm going to play. Alright. Stuck in there. Put that to the side. Alright, we're starting with an Arrogant Batterhide, Hesperian Steelplate, Ferocious Decayosaur, Grove Mother, Lycian Rain, Mystical Tangle Sprout, Nap Time, Rooted Bartok, Org My Guardian, Transcendent Biologist, and we've got a Nova with Nova's Wrath, Nova's Dominion, and Nova's Might. Alright. I'll just grab the last few up here. So we got 3 more left. So maybe I was destined to open this case so other people could open really good ones. Alright, we got a Betrayer there. That's another Betrayer number 1. So I guess we'll do that one last. Alright, we got an Arrogant Stonefist, Combat Warstoker, Everflame Phoenix, Firefist Uranti, Pyre Song, Pyromantic Giant, Scorchwing Dragon, Stampeding Mongosaur, Thunderstar, Turnabout, and got a Sunder with Ice Armor, Gathering Storm, and Summon the Swarm. Alright, next we've got Arrogant Polymorpher, Botanimate, Camouflage Decayosaur, Druid's Chant, Hibernating Batterhide, Kindred Bartok, Lycian Rain, Mystical Tangle Sprout, Relentless Wanderers, Soothing Druid, and an Oros with Dark Forge Drain, Shapeshift, and Growth Aura. We've got Necrom next, Bonescythe Reaver, Ghoulish Drake, Gloom Reaper Hag, Grave Pact, Root Meal, Indomitable Fiend, Soul Reap, Spirit Reaver, Spite Maiden, and Zimus. And that's got a Cersei with Soul Siphon, Army Commander, and Life Drain. Alright, so next we're starting off the Aloyan with an Adaptive Mystic. It's another number 1 Betrayer. Aegis Knight, Aegis Wings, Armored Sentry, Camouflage Justicar, Energy Prison, Rallying Prophet, Sonic Burst, Steadfast Technohulk, Venerable Tinkerer, and it's got an Ironbeard with Knockback, Reinforce, and Intimidate. I will say we have not seen a lot of Shambling, we have not seen a lot of Rallying, so and actually we've seen very little Kindred as well. So some of those rare modifiers, especially in Kickstarter, tend to be a little more rare. And have found that stuff tends to be kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, clumped together a little in terms of modifiers or major cards. Like sometimes, like I opened a case actually yesterday with 0 Dark Hearts in all 24 Necron decks, which was pretty interesting. And then sometimes you can open some that have multiple. All right. All right, so we're starting with an Assailing Warhound, Chant of Umbrak, Combat Stonefist, Disintegrate, Pyre Song, Stampeding Adept, Stout Lasher, Thundersaur, an Unstable Raptor, which is unfortunate because the Raptor doesn't have a ton of health. So it's like if it's going to lose health, it's probably going to die immediately. Uranti Elementalist. And we've got a Sunder with Summon the Swarm, Gathering Storm, and Stimbolt. Alright, next we got our Verloyan with the Aetherforge Oracle, Apocalypser, our Majesticar, Camouflage Reinforcements, Sipian Experimentation, Energy Prison, Forgeplate Yeti, Rallying Sculptor, Sonic Burst, Steel Eye Researcher, and it's got Ironbeard with Intimidate, Shields Up, and Reinforce. Alright, so we've got Armored Druid, Botanimate, Combat Matriarch, Druid's Chant, Grove Mother, Sated Basher, Stampeding Bear, Toxic Spores, Venerable Decaysar, Betrayer War Machine, and an Oros with Scape Shift, Growth Aura, and Darkforge Drain. Yeah, so Ankh, I definitely agree. Rallying Sculptor is a great card because you want to be replacing stuff with the Sculptor. And then obviously, if you could replace and get a free spell, that's always going to feel really, really good. It's definitely one of my favorite rallying creatures. Alright, so next we've got Disian Siphon, Gloom Reaper Hag, Hibernating Slime, Indomitable Fiend, Necrotic Reaper, Spite Hydra, Stout Spirit. We got a Betrayer Summoning Council, Vampiric Skeleton, Zithian Dreadmaw, and it's got a Cersei with Army Commander at level 2, Soul Siphon, and Life Drain. Alright, we got one booster left in the case. At least we got a couple Betrayers right at the end there. Unfortunately, we haven't really gotten too many very, very optimized decks out of the 24 boosters. Sometimes you could hit really well, sometimes you can kind of miss a little bit. But that's the whole thing about the random number generation, is that sometimes you're going to get good stuff and sometimes you're not. So that's why I just got to keep opening more, right? Alright. So we got our last Alolan. We've got Aetherforge Oracle, Arrogant Alamancer, Electronet, Epoch Soldier, Force Field, Metasite, Palladium Hintermind, Protective Prophet, Recycling Assassin, Salvage Scavenger. Our Forgeborn here is an Ironbeard, Intimidate, Shields Up, and Reinforce. Alright, next we've got Assailing Mystic, Combat Stonefist, Everflame Aura, Firefist Uranti, Flame Jet. I think that's actually the first Flame Jet so far. Piercing Ice Crusher, Sparking Worm, Stampeding Master, Stout Razortooth, and Deddy. That comes with a Korok with Whirlwind, Lightning Speed, and Flame Strike. Right, Carl's asking, anyone want to get a game in after this? Unfortunately, if I wasn't so tired after and having to go to work tomorrow early, I would say yeah. But if anyone wants to play, like this is definitely making me want to play a little bit. All right, next we've got Necron with a Gloom Reaper Hag, Hibernating Drake, Necrotic Reaper, Portal Shade, Sigmund Fraud, Spirit Leash, Stout Shambler, Tormenting Banshee, Varnus Pact, Venerable Demon, and it's got a Nyx with a Raising Dead, Dark Summoning, and Army of the Damned. Then we've got our final pack, our final deck. Oop, if I don't throw my cards, let me just grab that real quick. All right, then we got our last deck. It's got a Krogius, Druid's Chant, Experience Steel Plate, Ferocious Mantis, Ferocious Roar, Leyline Vermin, Mystical Batterhide, Mystical Tangle Sprout, Roaring Polymorpher, Spring Dryad, and it's got an Oros with Dark Forge Drain, Shapeshift, and Growth Aura. I would say we ended on a pretty strong note comparative to a lot of the other decks. It's got a lot of the cards that could kind of deal with the whole Rumble Spark, and it's got a Mantis as well with the Krogius. So yeah, overall, this was a lot of fun. I just opened 24 booster kits of Kickstarter. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I'll post this. It'll stay on my Discord, or sorry, my Twitch, and I'll also post this on YouTube. I know there was a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning, so I'll probably try to figure out a way to kind of edit in the beginning of the thing plus the rest of it. So I opened a couple really cool decks. I would say out of the 24 boosters, there wasn't anything I would super play competitively. I do really like the Dark Forge or the Dark Heart deck that had Elysian Rain. So if anyone's interested to see what that looks like, you could definitely tune in to either YouTube or Twitch and look to see at the very beginning. I kind of went over that, but it had a lot of really cool cards just to kind of help with a whole Nova Elementalist, and it's pretty good for the mirror match knowing you have that Betrayer. What's it called? The Betrayer. I can't even think right now. So I've opened so many cards. Here we go. The Betrayer, Leyline Vermin is what I meant to say. So yeah, this was a pretty solid deck. This was probably the best out of all the ones I opened, in my opinion. Granted, there was some really solid stuff that I kind of skipped over. A lot of Apocomancers with Trixes. There was a couple decks with some Shamblers, Blight Witches, things like that. So yeah, there was a lot of really solid stuff. But yeah, this is kind of what it feels like opening 24 Kickstarter boosters. I know this was a lot all at once. Typically, I like to go a little bit more in detail as I look through them. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If there's any decks that you saw that you really liked that you want to trade for, please shoot me a message. I'm happy to do so. Anyone who wants to look through my collection, you could go to the collection manager and type in Nathas, Nathas. You could pull up my collection. Obviously, these haven't been scanned in yet, but I'll be doing that later, probably tomorrow. And then, yeah, you could look through, ask anything you want to trade for, and I'm happy to kind of try to work something out. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great night and enjoy their weekend, and I will see you all this upcoming week with events and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, everybody, and have a great one.